T.
Miss 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 T.
Can't wait for you to meet Miss T. She is the T in T.
Welcome back to Sweet Tea Time, and I'm T, and I have something really interesting, hoping that I can help you with something that I'm working through myself, truly. I try to not, just get on these podcasts and just talk about the things that I do, what I know, and all the things. Most often when I jump in here with you, I'm working through some stuff too. So I wanted to, share a situation with you, a season of my life that I call my Cinderella season. And I know for most people, when you hear Cinderella, you think about the ball, the gown, the prince, and she wins, right? But when I say my Cinderella season, I'm thinking more about the process of evolution, the mentality that and the gymnastics in your mind that happen when you shift from one class or one realm or one level into a completely different realm, which has a completely different system, which requires you to show up totally different. And so I had a Cinderella moment. Now, my friend, she would point it out, like, me wrestling with, imposter, like the imposter syndrome. And I know a lot of people deal with that, especially people that shift the trajectory financially or creatively or lifestyle wise, in their generation. And I think it's definitely a difficult thing when you so morph in a way that causes you to stand out and rise above anything that's happened in your generational bloodline. And for me, that's for four generations. There's no one in my bloodline that has done or is doing what I've done in four generations. That's a lot of years. And so as I'm going through this, entering in, if you will, my Cinderella season, one of the major wrestlings I had really truly was with myself. Like it was my old self wrestling with my new self and me convincing me that I was capable and qualified to be this woman that I had become. And so, all the accolades would flow in and all the awards would flow in and the recognition for the work that I spent many years building started to just really, like a tsunami flood in, especially as we, exploded organizationally during the pandemic. What I wasn't ready for was my thinking in all of this and how people were seeing me and how I was showing up in the world. So I thought that, we could chat a little bit about that today, and then I could maybe share some of the steps and some of the coaching that I received that really helped me through the Cinderella season. But I won't say that I've mastered it. I think that this is still something that I work on every day. And so a couple of symptoms that present themselves for me when I'm dealing with that imposter syndrome, if you will, is I get agitated. I get agitated in new experiences, especially new big experiences. And I know for some they get excited, but for me, for sure, I get agitated. And I get agitated in a way that I'm prickly with the people that are around me. And I feel like I have to fight. It's something that's new. I'm going into something different. It's almost like I'm going into foreign territory and I'm bracing myself for the battle because that's what it's meant for me in the past when I'm going into something new. And so one of my symptoms is agitation. Another one is second guessing. I second guess decisions. I second guess what to wear. I second guess, how am I going to talk to? Who do I talk to? Where do I go? And then 4T personally is I will get in these atmosphere and my first instinct is shyness. I will go into my little turtle shell, even though I'm clearly visible, and I will want to revert. And so I remember the first time I did a red carpet event, and this is a major televised red carpet event. I was shopping for gowns because I knew that, if I had to show up, they were going to put me on the red and I had to look a certain way. And so I shopped and I found 4 different garments, and my stylist was working with me on them. And everybody that I asked about the 4 options of the garments, they all quickly and in cadence with one another said the same gown. It was this beautiful gold gown, spaghetti strap, cleavage everywhere, and then the core of it was see-through. Now, I've not ever considered myself, a thin runway model or anything like that. So, and I'm again very shy. I'm accustomed to wearing sweats and things like that and working with kids. What I'm not accustomed to is a see-through bodice, spaghetti strap cleavage everywhere, form-fitting gown that flows behind me that's gold and sparkly. I'm like, ah, it's like, what am I doing here? And so everybody unanimously picks this gown. But when they were picking the gown, one of the things that they were asking is, T, what were you thinking with these other three options? And so when you look at this one gown, which is really, I didn't pick it, my stylist did, and I was asking family and friends to weigh in on it. And the ones that I picked were way safer, not see-through, covered everything, and were not like, they weren't standout colors or anything like that. And so I realized, with the Q&A around all of that stuff, is one of the symptoms that happen when I'm in a Cinderella season, or experiencing some level of imposter syndrome, is I will make sure that the options point away from visibility. Now, what do I mean by that? I was picking dresses that would make me not stand out but blend in, and then blend in into the background. And the one dress that made me stand out, and I will tell you, I walked into the room, and this is a room full of extremely well decorated, highly successful, and wealthy and well endowed individuals. I walked into the room that night, and the room tilted in my direction no matter where I was. That's not arrogance, that's truth. And it was so much attention, so much favor, so much so that I was intimidated, and I asked the question. And again, I'm a prayerful woman, but I asked the question. I said, what am I doing here? And that little voice inside of me said, this is where you belong. Now, this is where I belong, not because I had on the dress. This is where I belong now because of the list of things that I've done over the past several years to build what I've built, qualified this woman to be in this environment with her peers. And so in the moment, the question was, what am I doing? And the answer was, this is now who you are. So when you're talking about symptoms, you want to make sure that you're examining things, that when you get this big opportunity to be visible as who you've become and who you've worked hard to become, that you don't sabotage it by trying to hide in an outfit, or hide in a room, or hide from the moment. And again, I call that my Cinderella season, because I'm constantly doing, the gymnastics that Disney didn't talk about. When Cinderella got the dress and the shoes and all the stuff, I know she had to think, you don't go from being someone who sits by, cleans up after people and is just, low level servant. And then all of a sudden you're like the queen. There's some stuff that has to happen here in order for you to even survive a shift like that. And so what they don't talk about in the movie is like that part. And so again, I'm still working on that part. One of the things that I had to do recently is because I was being nominated for a very, very big honor. And I wasn't the one nominating T, but other people were nominating me. And in order for them to speak intelligently about the depth of what I do, I don't always know the volume of what I do. I just do a lot of things. I had to build out almost like a resume. And I haven't done a resume in so long. I've worked for myself and my companies for so long. I haven't needed a resume. And so I started building out this document that just kind of tracked what has been accomplished from 2008 to 2025. And as I'm listing things out, it's anywhere from political advocate to, producer, show producer, to, photographer, videographer, to, multi-company owner, to uh, commercial real estate owner, to innovation factory builder, to mom and grandma. And, I could go down the very, very long list, to speaker, engager, trainer, coach, developer, designer. The list was a good solid 13 pages long. And I don't suggest any of this to sound arrogant, but it's my list of evidence that says you are who you see yourself as. You are who you are. Now, here's another thing that, I had to cement in me, is if you don't know who you are, you will always go back to what you know. And so, preparing this list and allowing myself to see and agree that, wow, this is who you've become. And then also, that is where you're going. And this is where your new playground is. Seeing and agreeing with that helped me to stop going back to who I was. And when I say go back to who I was, go back to a talk, how I used to talk. Like there's certain speak that I would do just because my social stuff. Well, that speak is good here, but it doesn't work here. So you will revert if you don't know who you've become. If you don't agree with who you've become, your vernacular will tell on you. Another thing was my packaging would shift. I would dress very differently, and the quality of attire would be different in this stage phase of my life. But in this one, I have to attire myself differently because of the people that I associate with by way of business and that I run with now. It's different. And so again, when I see myself in these realms, but I'm suited different, I'm packaged different, and I'm talking distance, that tells me that I'm not in that moment of in agreement with who I've become. Another thing is my response versus react. And now this is really important. So when you don't know who you are, you're wrestling with imposter syndrome and you're in a new situation that's really, that you deserve, but you're not aware of it. Sometimes you become very reactive instead of responsive. And there's a difference. So when I respond to something, I'm well thought through, I articulate intelligently and smoothly and kindly and compassionately. Um, and I don't give the impression like the world is on fire. But when I'm wrestling with, should I really be, am I, da, 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 I'm a little more reactive. And when you're reactive, it's just like anything that requires, to reactive, it's volatile, it's edgy, it's, you're pushing, you're forcing to convince. And when you have to force to convince, that means something. That means you really don't know who you are, and you're forcing some articulation that you're trying to prove something. And when you know who you are, when you're not wrestling with imposter syndrome, you don't got to prove nothing to nobody. So you want to watch your response versus your reaction. So when I know who I am and I'm rock solid and in who I am and where I'm going, I'm very responsive. And whether you take my advice or not, that ain't up to me. That's up to you. And I don't go home and lose sleep over it. But when I have some level of imposter syndrome seeping in, I'm reactive, and I'm forcing my way. And then if you don't get it, it bothers me. It bothers me greatly. So again, I'm saying all of this to hopefully help you as I'm trying to help me deal with this thing. And so near as I can tell, with the pace and trajectory of life in general, I don't know that that's something that will ever go away. It may be something that you will have to wrestle with the way I wrestle with, but as time goes by, I don't have to wrestle with it as long as I used to have to wrestle with it. And I would also suggest that you should be intensely studying you all the time because you're changing by the second. And the more acquainted with you that you are, the better able you will become to really show up in the world in agreement with yourself and receive all the things that a quality human like you deserves and needs in order to do your mission, your purpose. And I think that if you don't allow this study time, this agreement time, this familiarizing you with you time, I believe that's when the window is open for the idea of an imposter. And you know what that means too. Imposter, that means a fake, something that's not real. And the difference between something that's a fake and something that's real is the depth of quality and value of the something, and then the world's knowing of it. So if you don't believe, know, and agree that your depth of quality and value is intense and vast and wide and amazing, and you still have more to grow in that respect, if you don't know that, I promise you the world won't know that. And that fake imposter will keep presenting itself just to challenge you knowing you. So I hope that, together we could continue the journey of becoming, continue the journey of realizing how deeply amazing we can be and we are in this world, and the necessity of you. And as we're on this journey together, my hope is that me sharing these things as I'm growing will help you grow. If you're on the path or, starting the path, it'll help you grow. That way, there's more of us showing up in the world, fighting the good fight, fulfilling our purposes, living the lifestyles that we dream of, and can help other people do the same thing. So, thank you very much for tuning in today. So, if any of this helped you, make sure you share it, make sure you like it, make sure you subscribe if you haven't. Goodness gracious, subscribe. And leave some comments. If you figured out some stuff and wrestling with this, listen, I'm a student in all this too. I'm trying to grow. Put some comments out there so we all can grow and shape shift and find our value and show up in the world as our full selves together. And again, I know that this is something that I'm dealing with at my age, but I'm seeing so much of this with the young adults that I'm working with. So, if you have kids, make sure that you're helping them understand their shape shift and the importance of them finding value in themselves and agreeing with their greatness. That way they don't get like our age trying to figure stuff out. Pass this information and this wisdom along. So thank you for tuning in. I cannot wait to see you here again. And man, I do this for you, and I hope you are enjoying it and you're learning from it and it's helping you. Let me know. Until then, I will see you soon.